Hello guys, today I'm just going to take a little look. We're going to do a review of the season, get some predictions in, and kind of just go over my season and kind of how I feel doing my first season. First off, let's just start by saying a big thank you to the mods, the admins, and the people who set this up. It's a lot of fun. When I first joined, I didn't know anything about baseball really. I knew the basic idea: bat, ball goes over fence, you score, or over the stands, or whatever you want to call it. I got that bit, but I didn't know like how innings worked. I didn't know the idea of strikes and balls and how many you would need. I certainly didn't know what RBI means. To be honest with you, it took me halfway through the season to know what RBI means. So, yeah, there's been a lot of talk on Discord, and people would talk about RBIs and stuff like that, and I'd just be standing there like, So, it's nice to at least somewhat know what I'm talking about now. Somewhat, not quite there, but we're working on it. So, I'm going to do the prediction first. I feel like this is probably the one that people are more interested in. If you want to stick around for me giving a breakdown of my season, I appreciate it. But, you don't have to. I'll do the prediction first. So, if we look at the actual playoff bracket right now, Stern beat Rainey. I beat Gerhardt. Notorious beat Brickhouse. I think that was quite... Brickhouse. I think that was quite a... would you say that was a bit of an upset? I think so. It was quite convincing too. And Big Red beat Diski. Probably a bit of a controversial one, but Big Red's a really good player, so it is what it is. Stern beat Depp in the quarters. I personally thought that's probably about right. Depp's a good player as well. Basically, if you get to the wildcard series, if you get out of the playoffs, you're a good player. You have a good player. So everyone here is a good player, but I feel like Stern beating Depp, yeah, that's pretty fair. Notorious v Matty, it says 0 there. That match has actually been played. Matty got the 2-0. Matty's favourite to win, isn't he? Realistically. I think it was always going to be between Jack and Matty, ultimately. But I think Matty is more consistent overall. I think Jack is very just hit it, get it over the fence type player. And that's fine. Absolutely not wrong with that. It doesn't matter how you do it, as long as you get points on the board. But I feel like Matty defensively is a lot more solid, and he can do that. So I think Matty's just kind of got the full package. So I think Matty probably will end up winning. Me v Mulligan, we'll get to that in my review. I am out. Mulligan does take the win there, and we still need to play game 3 of Big Red and Jack. Prediction for that one: Red did beat Jack 5-1 the last time they played on Sandy Flats, but Jack took quite a long break, as far as I'm aware. At least he says he didn't. I didn't see him around at the time, so that sounds about right. Sandy Flats is a nightmare to play on. Absolute nightmare. I've never been able to really beat Jack or compete. I think I lost 2-0 once, so I think that's about as good as it's got for me versus Jack. And yeah, Sandy Flats is a nightmare, especially for slow players. Big Red, if I take a little look here, Big Red, where are you? Big Red, there you are. If we look at Big Red's team, the speed just on Sandy Flats, I just don't see it. It's just not a fast team. So even 7, I feel like 7 isn't particularly fast on Sandy. Whereas you look at Jack's team, while his team also isn't the fastest in the world, it suits his style. He's not going to be running for bases that often. He just wants to stick it over. And with players like Ahmed and Zenon and Courtney can do it. He's even managed to get some good hits with Colleen, which is wild. Like you can look at his record, like 89 and 20 is crazy. Like I think he's got the most runs in the season. I think not most runs, points scored, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, I think you got to look at it from that point of view. I think Jack takes it. So if we go with that, if we go with Jack taking it, assuming I don't mess this up here, it's lowest seed versus highest seed. So Stern, Matty. So lowest seed versus highest seed would be Matty versus Mulligan, assuming Red doesn't win. So Matty versus Mulligan. It's going to be Matty, isn't it? Realistically, it's going to be Matty. Mulligan, obviously, fantastic player. He knocked me out. I think he's very patient, Mulligan, and I think that's the thing with him. I think it's very quite long drawn out. The first game that I had against him where I beat him 5-2, I think he was snatching a little bit, and I think Wendy's pitches were confusing me a little bit because I was taking a lot of risks, and slow balls can be a bit funky to deal with. But in the second and the third game, I noticed he was a lot slower and a lot more picking his moments, and that kind of caught me in a position where I couldn't really answer. Not that I couldn't answer back, but my weakest point with my players has always been my batting. I'm not a particularly good batter. Pitching, solid. Defensively, reasonably solid. I think I'm a solid in defence, but yeah, I'm just not great at finding that sweet spot when it comes to batting. And once he had me locked down as far as waiting for my pitches, yeah, it was going to be a low scoring game, but I think he grinds it out. But Matty doesn't have that problem. Matty just doesn't have that problem. Lindsay Falgate, Mark Maguire, it's wild. It's wild. I think. Do I go 2-0? It seems a little bit. It almost seems a little bit cruel because Mulligan obviously beat me, and I think Mulligan's fantastic. But I just think Matty is the forewinner. I think to win the whole thing. I think it's a 2-0. I think it's a Matty 2-0. That puts Jack against Stern. That's interesting. That is more interesting. I think Jack's starting to get into it now, but I still think defensively Jack can be a little bit funky. I think I still go Jack. But I think we're gonna have a 2-1. I think Stern will win game 1, and I think Jack gets the next 2, and we go to the World Series. If it comes to the World Series, 3-1 Matty. I think 3-1 Matty. I think Jack will take a game. I think Jack will get those sweet spots, get a high scoring game, but Sandy's a nightmare. Sandy plays a huge part in Jack's game, and it will for that World Series as well. It could be 3-2, but I'm going to go 3-1. I think Matty defensively is solid enough that I think that's where we're going. So I think champion is going to be Matty, and I think it'll be 3-1. So that's the prediction. Let's go ahead and move on to kind of just an overview of my season. So we'll start here with the draft, down at where my team was at the start. So we had Chico, Cal, Francis. We didn't have Stan. We'll get to that. We had Earl Abbott. We had Tony Gwynn, and we had Raquel Cullen instead of Derek, Jacinda, and Stan. These were shown in the trades. I traded Earl and Tony for Stan and Derek, and then I traded Jacinda for Raquel. That trade between Jacinda and Raquel, that was the worst trade, and it was quite convincingly the worst trade. That was a bad one. That was a bad decision by me. I don't think I gave Raquel or Tony enough of a chance. I think I just saw the batting power, saw that I was having I was having a rough start, and I was just like, I need contact because I'm just not hitting the ball. What I didn't realise is that Jacinda's just too slow. Even with contact, she hasn't got the power to get it far enough to make up for the lack of speed she's got. So Jacinda did a job for me on first base. She did. I got a bit lucky because Jacinda can be quite error prone, but she was pretty consistent this season. But yeah, I think Raquel was a much better option than Jacinda. That was a bad trade. Earl and Tony for Stan and Derek. Obviously, the funny thing about this one is I also traded Stan and Derek in the halfway point. Stan was good. Stan was really good. We'll get around to actually rating these guys, because I'll rate my team basically. We'll go with how I think that went. Derek, he was fine. I needed a pitcher, and I thought Derek would be the replacement for Earl. He wasn't that good. He was fine, but he didn't really do a lot for me. I did trade him. So I don't think there's somewhere where I can look at the trades at halftime. By the way, can we talk about this? Jack swapping Ramona Bennett for Jason Giambi. Jason Giambi has been so important for Jack. So solid. Pitching, first base, just really consistent. And Diskey dropping Ricky Johnson for Lorelei. Like, Lorelei was the only person in the entire season to go without a single strikeout. So these two were huge pickups. Huge pickups. As far as my other trades, I traded Stan for Alicia Blakely. If I just have a quick check here. Yes. So I traded for Alicia Blakely. I think that was fine. Did it improve my team? I got a couple of home runs at important times with Alicia, so you have to take that into account. Stan never really got any home runs. He was pretty consistent getting on first base, but that's kind of where it ended for him. I traded with Matty. Matty's the type of player who could really work with Olaf. I don't know how well he liked Olaf, but he was good. Derek, I swapped for Sullivan, which that was a good trade. That was my best trade of the season, I think. I loved having Sully. I'd get him again next season. Sully star. I think you do need that. It's not cheese, but I refer to it as cheese. It's literally just that quick bunt, get him on base. If you score a home run after that, it's a free point. It's a free extra point on the base. And he can steal. I regret not being more aggressive with Stewart. I tried to be more aggressive in the later seasons, but like in the playoff. But in the playoff, it was kind of one of those where defensively they were a lot better than some of the people in the season were. So stealing, I think, was more tricky, but it was good. It was good. So I've talked about the trades and who we had and kind of how it went. Let's do ratings as far as how my team went. Let's start with Chico. And to be honest, am I doing this by like letter grade or am I doing this by number? We'll just do out of 10. Chico, I'm going to be honest, 5. I couldn't get anything out of him. He would score home runs. He got what? Let's have a look. He got 5 home runs. Is this just during the season or is this during the whole thing? Yeah, but this is the whole season. Is it the playoffs as well? Yeah, so this is just during the games. So this is just during the regular season, but 5 home runs from Chico in a 14-game season. That's rough. That's rough. The guy is 95 power, 95 contact, but I just couldn't get out of him. Couldn't get out of him. He was fine, but he wasn't doing any better than, say, like Francis or even Cal. You know, I would have traded him. I could have traded him for Lindsay Felgate. Is it Lindsay Felgate or Lisa Felgate? It's Lindsay, isn't it? Yeah, Lindsay Felgate. Lindsay's better. Lindsay's a lot better, and that's a trade I should have took. If you look at the stats, as far as overall, let's have a look here. No, that's the one. I need to go to team stats, league leaders. There we go. If I go to league leaders, no, regular leaders. If you look at Lindsay Felgate, most amount of hits, second place for triples, loads of extra base hits, the most wins in the league. Now, obviously, keep in mind that's Matty. I am not Matty, but you know, you can tell there was a different level. I think Lindsay's just better. So 5 for Chico, disappointing. Would I get him again next season? No. I know he can hit, and I know he's really good if it's with someone who is solid as a batter. I dread to think what Chico would have done on Matty, but for me, just didn't do it. Cal was probably the best player on my team throughout the entire season. He was just consistent, just constantly consistent. The amount of diving catches Cal made, I've had to work him so hard. Like, without him and his stamina boost, I would have been drained in a lot of those games. So he was so important. I think I'll give him an 8. I think 8. I think he's really good. I don't see it getting any higher than an 8, to be honest. Yeah, I'll go with 8. Just generally really solid. What can I say? Would I take him next season? I will be going out of my way to get him next season. I'm not going to take him first pick because that's kind of a waste. Let's calm down. You know, he's not a first pick choice, but I will be going out of my way to get Cal Whipkin again next season. I want to get the Wockies again next season, but we'll see. But yeah, I definitely do want to get Cal back if I can. Bluer was good too. I really thought Bluer did a really good job. If I look at Bluer also got 5 home runs, so she got the same amount of home runs as Chico did. Make it make sense. But she was solid, really good arm strength. A little funky obviously with the eye and height, she's a little bit funky, but I never played her on field, or I tried not to put her on field. I think she might have played field a little bit at the start of the season. I think I got punished a lot for that. But yeah, I really like Francis. Do I give her an 8 as well? Yeah, go on. We'll give Francis an 8 as well, because she was really good. Would I take her again? Yeah, I would. She wouldn't be someone that I would go out of my way to get, but if she was available, I'd definitely take her. Alicia Blakely. I hate that Alicia Blakely. A little disappointing, if I'm being honest. She got 2 home runs, which at 86 power, I was hoping to get a little bit more out of her. The lack of speed, I mean, she had a good eye, so she made for a good right fielder for a while during the latter half of the season. So she did do her job, and for height was kind of a game changer. But she wasn't all that. She was fine. She did her job. Fine. Do I think Stan would have done a better job? Probably. In the playoffs, I probably would have done more with Stan, but it is what it is. I'll give her a 6, and 6 I think is very much going to be the baseline of they were fine, they did a job, but they weren't anything overwhelmingly good. Hillary I think was really good. Hillary and Wendy, I'm actually going to put these two in together because these two were probably saviours for a lot of my season. Their arm power and just ability to just get to that base and just throw absolute rockets, they saved me a lot. Wendy became my main pitcher when Francis just wasn't doing it for me. I wasn't liking these hooks. In fact, I'm just not a fan of hooks. I preferred the slow ball, and the fact that I could have a bit more freedom and I could switch it up with Wendy, I think just made it a lot better. Francis is great. 100 heat is 100 heat, but when you go up against people who are solid batters, like I just don't think it's worth throwing heaters because it's just guaranteed to go over, so I just don't do it. These two were solid. I'll give them both 7. They're not quite on the Cal Francis level, but they were really solid. Stewart, I'll give him a 7 as well. The reason being, obviously, he's not a great hitter. He's not a great catcher. And he gasses out. Actually, 73 stamina. I feel like he gasses out more, but that's because you're running with him more, and that's kind of just what that is. But he's doing a job, and he's doing a specific job that you tell him to do. And consider at doing that job, he would be a 9. But then taking into account all these other stuff, I think giving him a 7 is perfectly reasonable. Jacinda just wasn't good. You see, Kimmy and Jacinda were both not good, but they were both not good for separate reasons. Jacinda, for me, she looked like she offered a lot, but she just didn't. Her speed kind of killed a lot of that defensive capability to the point where I had to just stick her on first, because if I put her in the field, she just wasn't fast enough. At bat, she was consistent, but she just wasn't fast enough to get on base a lot of the time. Stealing was basically impossible with her. 5 speed almost seems... She didn't feel like she had 5 speed. She felt like she was the slowest. Hillary, Alicia, Wendy, they all seemed faster than Jacinda. They clearly weren't. Same speed rating, but God, they felt it. I'll give her a 5. She just wasn't all that. Putting Jacinda in the same score as Chico is wild, but for my reasons and my experience, she just wasn't doing it for me. Kimmy's a funny one because Kimmy was a risk, and I knew Kimmy was a risk going into the draft. Obviously, she would be consistent. She would be like a Stan Olafson when she's got a buff. Or not Francis Blue, that's a little exciting. That's a little too much, but probably like a Stan, and she would be very consistent and she would be fine. But non-buffed Kimmy is painful. There was some Ekman. It all came down to how many Ekmans there were, and Matty had 3 Ekmans. Unfortunately, the people who did pick Ekman were better players. So it didn't really work out. It was a risk. It didn't really work out. She did fine. She did a job, but I'll give her... I still think she did better than Jacinda. I'll give her a 6. I'll give her a 6 and I'll leave it at that. Out of these, Cal I'm picking again. Francis I'd consider picking again. Hillary and Wendy I would consider picking again. Stuart I would maybe go out my way to pick again. Stuart or Star. The rest of them, Alicia, Jacinda, Kimmy, Chico, I'd be happy to just let them go. Chico will go very fast anyway. Somebody will pick up Chico. You know, somebody who's very capable, somebody who's a good batter. They'll do damage with Chico, but not me. Just wasn't my thing. So let's have a look at. I need to go back to that one. Let's go back to the. No, I don't. Let me get there. Let me cook. Standings. Right. So overall, I finished 7-7. So I just managed to get into the playoffs over Notorious, Rainy. I got the same as Big Red. Shout out to Kiwisu, by the way, because Kiwisu had consistent losses throughout the season, but he kept coming back, kept turning up for his games, and kept having fun with it. And you have to appreciate that, because I would have tilted. I know there's a lot of people in this league. Disky, Jack, me. You know, I'm not just calling out these people, me as well, who probably would have tilted if after like a certain amount of losses. I was pretty tilted first half of the season, which is why I had to let Raquel go. I think that was just a tilt decision. I think, but Mulligan said I was the most improved player, and I think I really appreciate that, because I kind of agree. I do agree, and that sounds like I'm, you know, bigging myself up, you know, thinking a lot about myself, but I think I need to back myself. If you look at my first season, like the first half of my season, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, because I think it didn't really start till week 9. 6 and 2 at the first half of the season, and then 5 and 1 in the second half of the season. The improvement, I mean, it's there. I can't really deny it being there. I wish I did better this half of the season. There's games here where I'm like Brick, Vidge, Disky, even Mulligan. I think I could have give a better game to. But it's these little 2-1 loss, 3-2 loss, just stupid mistakes that I feel like I could have easily rectified, and I would have rectified it if these were season 2 games. But I made the playoffs, and that's what matters. I'm happy with the season overall. I thought it was really good. Is there anything else I want to mention? I think we're about there, to be honest. If we look at leaderboard, there's a couple of interesting stats. League leaders. I was first for walks with Stuart Sullivan. I think obviously Kiwisu would have contributed to this as well. But having doubled than the next person, I thought was pretty wild. Yeah, standard really well on the walks. I don't really know what happened there. I don't really think I have any control over walks. But yeah, just a weird stat. Jacinda Smith, only 1 strikeout. Now she has, it's 100 contact, I think, right? So she's going to hit the ball. I think that's a little bit, what's the word? Misleading. Because, she didn't strike out, but she did get out on the way up first base a lot. So I think that's worth considering. The awards are coming up, and they talk about who's going to be the MVP this season. It's hard not to look at Lindsay and Mark as probably the outrunners. I think Zenon is worth considering. I think Water Sass is probably worth considering. I've been bagging on Water Sass all season, saying she's not an S+ player, but I mean, the stats talk for themselves. She's getting there. She's making runs. So, what do I know, right? Who else is there that we need? I mean, Dawn's pretty consistent too. Dawn was like Mully with Dawn's pretty consistent. Yeah, and look at the Giambi at pitch. Like, he's been huge. So I think Giambi's worth considering too. Who do I think is going to get it? Mark. I think Mark Maguire gets it. Because I think the difference is Lindsay's just kind of expected to be really good. Lindsay's expecting to be excellent. And while Mark is a good player, he's not Lindsay. And I feel like he's gone beyond what I think was expected of him, whereas Lindsay just expected to be good. So for me, it's Mark Maguire. I don't know what everyone else thinks about that, but it is what it is. I think that's about it, really. If I personally say who I think was the player with the tournament, obviously Matty is the best player. But if I say who do I think has went above and beyond and has really like looked solid, I think it's between me and Wed. As far as, you know, did better than was expected. I'm not going to go for myself, so I'd probably go Wed. I think. He's put up a very good fight against Jack. I feel like I obviously went 2-1 with me and Mully as well, but I kind of went out with a whimper in game 2 and 3. I just couldn't get the ones. So I think that's the difference. So I'd go Wed for most improved player. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. I think that's everything. So that was my overall review. Again, it's been a lot of fun. I intend to be back next season. I'm probably going to do some little write-ups and decide who my preferred players are going to be. I think I want Julie Dunkel off the top of my head, but we'll see what happens. So if you've watched all of this, then I appreciate it. The only people who are really going to watch this is going to be the Little Leaguers, because to everyone else who's just come across this video, it's not going to mean a lot to you. But yeah, if you have stuck around and watched it, I appreciate it. So thanks very much. I'm currently in the making of doing Backyard Baseball 2003. So there will be plenty more Backyard Baseball, but I'll do some of that, and I'll get some Isaac out of the way too. Alright, thanks for watching. Peace.